Welcome back. New overnight, an Iranian gunboat reportedly firing on at least 2 ships in the Hormuz Strait. One boat sustaining significant damage to the bridge. This right after President Trump announced the extension of the ceasefire with Tehran, saying that the U.S. will maintain its blockade on Iranian ports nonetheless. The president writes on Truth Social, Iran is losing $500 million a day as the strait remains closed by the United States, calling the regime starving for cash. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent imposing new sanctions on 14 companies and individuals who are said to have helped Iran obtain weapons. That includes entities based in Iran, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. Joining me now is Arkansas Congressman French Hill. He's the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I guess first, your observations on where we are in this war, sir.
Well, good morning, Maria. It's good to be with you. Well, first, I think President Trump has pursued the right course of action with the blockade and renewing the ceasefire to give Iran a chance to put together a comprehensive plan that has consensus there. That's what we need. That's what will justify J.D. Vance and our negotiators going back to Pakistan. So that's, I believe, an important step. Secondly, the U.S. military is supporting troops, our passage of the Strait. We've had more ships go through the Strait this week than last week. So the concept of the blockade and some movement there, I think, is good for future oil prices, future oil movement. And finally, the effort to tackle the bankers to Iran, I think, is a very important step. I support what the Treasury Secretary is doing. I have a bill in Congress to add sanctions to the UAE, to the Emirates, because they have been the bankers for Iran. It's something we're considering in Congress. But China buys all the oil, and Iran is an instrumental place of transshipment for weapons, both supporting the Russians in Ukraine and obviously their terror proxies around the Gulf.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think those are good steps about this Treasury Secretary.
And of course, also consideration within the Republicans is this reconciliation package. Tell me about that. I know that your colleagues in the Senate are preparing to launch a marathon Vote-a-Rama session as soon as today to begin on that funding bill. The president last week told me that he's expecting it to be slim, he called it, meaning funding for just Customs and Border Patrol as well as ICE. Do you think this is doable by June?
Well, it needs to be. And don't forget, let's have first principles. Why are we here? We're here because Senate Democrats and Democrats in the House will not vote to fund Homeland Security. They will not vote for a secure border. They will not vote for law enforcement in this country. I hope all Americans really tune in on that. So as a result, the only way we can get the badly needed funding for the Customs and Border Patrol and certain ICE enforcement operations is by using reconciliation. And so I appreciate Senator Graham's effort to initiate that process in the Senate. But it's unfortunate, in my view, that we're having to use reconciliation strictly to do something the Appropriations Committees under Susan Collins and Tom Cole have already done. We fully funded these agencies in the House. We passed all 12 bills.
Right.
And so members in the House are frustrated.
Well, it's pretty extraordinary, actually, even as DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen is warning that the agency could run out of money. And employees won't get paid as early as next month. The partial shutdown today extending into day 68. I know the Homeland Security Committee will hold a 2 p.m. hearing today on the impact felt in all of the 22 DHS agencies, and we're in the middle of a war. So, I mean, it really does feel quite irresponsible not to have the Department of Homeland Security open, and you've got to actually pay for it through a reconciliation package. I've been talking all morning about the potential for another reconciliation package, which, of course, would be 3 total under this president. Was that in the plans? Do you support that, to have another one before the midterms to achieve other priorities?
Well, it really depends on what we can find as those revenue offsets, meaning the spending cuts, the changes we want to make in the budget to fund the needed things that we'd like to do that are pro-growth for the economy. I always start there, like what can we find to support changing government policies? Can we get 218 votes in the House for that? Because that's what the governing percentage is. So I think a third reconciliation bill could be challenging. And I'm regretting that, as I said earlier, that we have to use our reconciliation moment to do something that the Congress should already do through the appropriations process.
Right.
But let's see how it plays out. The Senate's going to start. Let's see what consensus that we can find in the House. But again, I can't emphasize enough, we're here because Democrats are not funding Homeland Security in the midst of a war, threats to the homeland, and they don't support a secure border.
Right, and that's unfortunate. We saw what happens when the border was wide open under the Democrats' leadership under Joe Biden's presidency, where millions came in, and now we don't know if they're still here and what they're doing. Also challenging yesterday was their performance in front of Kevin Warsh. He faced tough questions on Capitol Hill as senators pressed him on financial disclosures and the independence of the Fed. Warsh didn't give us too many policy ideas, but he called for a new framework to tackle persistent inflation. What is your take, given the pushback from Tom Tillis?
Well, look, Kevin Warsh needs to be confirmed by the Senate, and that's why I've called for an off-ramp for this DOJ criminal prosecution of Jay Powell. I don't think that's warranted. But if there is a desire to have a real analytic, critical look at the Fed for the construction project, I know Senator Scott and the Senate Banking Committee and our House Financial Services Committee would be willing to do that. But I think it's important to the President's economic agenda to get Kevin Warsh confirmed as soon as possible. And I thought he made clear his view that the Fed is an independent agency when it comes to monetary policy and that he wants to work with Congress on policies for faster economic growth and better bank supervision.
Yeah, and the president made the point to me last week that what he's irked about is the construction price. He said that he built a hotel down the block from the Federal Reserve years ago that cost $201 million in construction, and he's just astounded that the fact that the Fed construction is costing more than $3.5 billion. Here's what the president said last week to me. Watch.
This guy is a bad chairman, really bad chairman. And I was surprised when Biden extended him, to be honest with you, but he did. Interest rates should be much lower than they are right now.
And you think they will go lower later this year?
When Kevin gets in, I do, yeah.
And, of course, that's exactly the line that Senator Warren used in her questioning, saying calling Kevin Warsh names because President Trump referred to him as Kevin. When Kevin gets in, rates are going lower. What is your sense of the economy right now and the impact of this war? Are you expecting a hit to growth? Are you expecting a spike in inflation, sir?
I think a sustained closure of the Persian Gulf would impact the global economy, there's no doubt, and it could have significant upward pressure on prices around the globe. But I don't anticipate it being sustained. When I say sustained, I mean several months long closure of the Gulf. I think President Trump's taken the action to end the nuclear threat and terrorism threat of Iran and working with allies and partners to get the Strait open and peace to the region. And I think that's an important step. And if we do that, I don't see it having a long-range impact on the economy this year. Regulatory policy is headed in the right direction under President Trump. We stopped a major tax increase on American business and American families. We gave Americans more of their money back in the tax refunds this year. We're headed in the right direction, and so I don't anticipate that. And I think Kevin Warsh will be a very independent voice at the Fed. He's a studied, thorough person with a great background both in business and having served as a governor before on the Fed back during the 2000s and the financial crisis. He is the right person for this job, and we need to get him confirmed as soon as possible.
All right, so I want to move on to the Clarity Act real quick and all of your work on digital assets. But just to be clear, you do think he'll get confirmed?
I do. We need to end the. We need to have the DOJ drop this criminal probe of President Trump, and I think we need to do our due diligence and oversight on the building construction down at the Fed. We're happy to do that, and we'll report candidly what went wrong and where and how. But Kevin Warsh's confirmation is important to the country.
Congressman, let me move on to these unresolved issues on the Clarity Act. We've been talking about legislative text on the proposed stablecoin yield compromise, and it looks like this is not going to get a markup until, what, May?
Well, I wait every day for white smoke to come from the Senate on this topic. I want to thank Senators Alsobrooks and Tillis for working mightily with the crypto industry and the banking industry to reach that compromise. They've devoted weeks and weeks to it. And senators on both sides of the aisle, led by Senator Scott, Senator Lummis, and others, also have worked on the other issues that are important to getting this bill back to the House, such as making sure that the decentralized finance aspects of the bill are in good shape, too. So we're here to work with them. We're here to get this to the president's desk just as soon as possible.
So do you think that the new language will generally bar yield for the stable coins held on platforms?
Personally, when I was brief...
Because there's also an idea that stable coins can be used to make purchases and then they can pay the rewards.
Well, personally, when I reviewed the language, I felt like it was a possible compromise, and I hope we can get it done.
Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks for your work on digital assets.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. French Hill, we'll be right back.